Good evening. Good evening, all viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Talk with Ellison, the military edition. Tonight, we're going to talk with spouses of the military, and we just hope you enjoy yourself and get some nuggets out of it, get some inspiration, be a part of a community because we all know that the military is unique. Well, tonight, I am joined by Jaquita Garrett. Jaquita J.
Hello,
Garrett. Hi, Quita. How are you?
fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. And next we have Julie Shrouds. Hey, Julie.
Hi.
Oh, and then we have LaShondra McIver. LaShondra Sean. So you guys can call her Sean. Hey,
Hello, hello.
how are you this evening?
I am well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate each and every one of you. It is so good to see you. It is my pleasure to have you ladies on tonight as we discuss this wonderful topic of a spouse's perspective. I know Quita might be in and out because she's having some difficulties where she's at. So if she jumps back in, she gets to join us again. And if not, we're just going to keep on rolling, okay?
All right.
All right. So just be yourself, be candid. We're just around a round table, just talking, having fun, ladies of the military, just talking spouses, right? So, I always say that we are a unique community, right? And it's not easy to understand all what being a family member consists of, right? We have unpredictable schedules.
Mm-hmm.
There's separation, right? Lots of separation, right? And for those who chose to follow their spouses, right, because not every spouse always go with the service member, but for those who did choose to go with the service member, we're always moving. We have to start new employment, new relationships, and the list goes on. It appears that we're always the new kid on the block, so to speak, right? I don't know if you ladies can relate, but it just appears that way.
Very true.
Amen. So,
Very true.
with the military being so unique, I want to ask you ladies if you knew this. This census was taken in mid 2020, and it said that there is about 1.3 million active duty personnel. That's less than a half of 1% of the U.S. population, right? The Army's the largest, right? And then it's the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Coast Guard.
Mm-hmm.
1.3 million. That's it. So we are definitely a unique community. Amen. So my first question to you ladies is, how many of you thought you would marry a military person?
I did.
You did. You did.
Hands down, I did.
Oh wow. Okay. Were you surrounded around military or?
Yes. So I wanted to go into the military when I was 6 years old. So
Okay.
I knew off the top, like, yes, this is what's gonna go and be of my life. But yes.
Right.
So I have an older brother. He served 22 years in the Marines. Um, I have older cousins who were also in the Navy and the Army. So yeah, I've been surrounded by military essentially all of my life.
Oh wow. Wow, Julie.
Well, my dad was in the military, so I've always had that military ID card. But, they live in Hawaii, and I just wanted to get away from that life. And I went to school in Boston and everything. Never did I imagine that I was going to marry another military man and end up in Millington, Tennessee. Who would have? And the question everybody
Right.
asks me is, why is the Navy sending my husband here? Because we have no water here, right? But we have the Mississippi.
Mm, okay. Okay. Well, I didn't grow up military anything. So no, I never thought I would marry a military. My brother was military, and when I went to go visit him, I was like, I will never marry a military person because there was so much drama going on my army base. I'm like, oh no, this is not for me. Here I am 24 years later, right? Right? So let me get you, let me pick your brains on this. Most people who get married in the military, they're uprooted from their families or their support system. What are the challenges, if any, have you faced, and how'd you overcome them?
Well, for me, it's been not having a steady job. Um, the last time I got interviewed for a job and got hired, they told me there was a 6 year gap in between my resume because I spent that time, moving every 2 years with my husband. So that's been rough. But you got to keep on keeping on because you have little ones that look at you and see what you do, and if you fall apart, they fall apart. So you got to hang in there for
Right.
your kids.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you had any challenges with moving? Because like I said, it's our support system. A lot of people don't leave, their neighborhood or even their city, or maybe whatever, wherever they live, they don't normally leave that. But now here you have joined the military, and you're leaving your support system. So what kind of challenges could that be?
I would say for me, I remember I never had that support system. My support system was back at home in Alabama. And luckily here in Florida, I have my brother's family, but my brother, I mean, he's a contractor in Kuwait. So, right. So he's been over there for 7 years. So that he is like my support system. But other than that, it's been really, really hard. Very
Right.
difficult to just
Right.
live the military life without that support. At least
Yeah.
not close by anyway.
Right. Right. Quita, how did you, because I know you're very close to your family, how did you overcome the challenges of leaving them to move to a whole different state?
Well, my challenge for me was I married my husband. I was in Virginia by myself. And so I had to pretty much build a new family, meet new
Mm-hmm.
people, get out, meet people through my husband, which is how I met Ellison and Rev. And I consider them my big brother and sister, of course. And they've given me so much love and support. And when they're deployed and out to sea, I've always had them as my family outside of my family in Louisiana itself. So in the beginning it was hard, but it eventually became real easy for me. But in the beginning it was a major challenge. But I stayed in school and kept myself going until I graduated, and that was a big help for me as well.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I would venture to tell anyone it's important to not just, fall into, it's easy to fall into a depression. It's easy to be lonely because now I don't have anybody. And sometimes that can cause so many problems in a relationship, because now I'm looking at you with bitterness and resentment of, you took me from my family, right? And I don't have no support system. You know, God forbid if we have kids and now the kids are running rampant and I don't have a support system and I don't know anybody. Right? So in talking about leaving our families, really not much of a support system. Julie, I heard you say that you had a 6-year gap in your resume. So let's talk about our
Yes.
identity, right? Let's talk
Mhm.
about our identity. Um, and before I ask this question, I wanna share this story that still gets to me today. I remember one time, Julie, I think I was with you. And anyway, I remember one time we was going somewhere and we were with a bunch of military spouses, and we were introducing ourselves, and everybody was saying, I'm officer so and so, or I'm chief so and so, right? And here come me saying I'm Ellison, because that's who I am. That's me, right? So with that being, Julie, you remember that? I don't know if you remember that.
I think so. I do remember that. Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
was
that's
like,
one of the hard things.
Yes,
is
yes. So I
you
was
get
like,
caught up
I'm
in
Ellison.
the military.
So yeah. So did any of you feel as though at one time or another during your spouse's career, you felt as if you lost your identity? You know,
Yeah.
we learned their social security before ours, right?
Yeah. Well, I sure did. That's why, Ellis and I first met when we were on the boat together, and I got to be an ombudsman. And I fought to keep continuing to be an ombudsman everywhere I moved to, because I don't know if you all know, ombudsman is that one spouse on the boat or somewhere, someone that you can talk to or whatnot.
The
And I fought
liaison.
to, yep, and I fought to be one everywhere my husband moved to, because I felt that that was something separate from my husband that I did on my own, because I
Mhm.
couldn't work with little kids and us moving everywhere, but I had to fight for it each and every time. And that carried me through 10 years. And there's something that you told me, Ellison, that once in a while I remember. When I first became an ombudsman, you told me not to take things personally, that things will happen out of our control. And you know what? Just don't take it personally. And I
That's
still
right.
teach new ombudsman till this day. And I always tell them what you told me. And I always tell them a wise ombudsman once told me, and I tell them that. So,
Don't take it personally. You can't.
yeah.
You can't because, and you have to realize we're dealing with a bunch of spouses, and I say spouses because it's not always women. So
Mhm.
we're dealing with a bunch of spouses who this is new to them. Right? So Julie, you said you developed the relationship with ombudsman so that you can maintain some sense of identity, right?
Yes.
LaShawn or Jaquita, any one of you guys felt like y'all lost your identity to your spouse at this point?
Um, I would say it's a little bit of both for me. So yes and no. I was actually the ombudsman for my husband's last command. Um, so I essentially liked it, but I'm always Chief McIver's wife. That's how
Right.
everybody knows who I am. I mean, I was also feisty too, but we're not gonna get into that. So
That's a different show.
yes. So I'm Chief McIver's. Oh, hey, I'm like, hey, I'm here to see, Chief McIver. Oh, you're Chief McIver's wife. No, my name is Sean. My name is Sean. Just Sean. Like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. But yeah, it being a part of the military, um, and also being a military spouse is two completely different things. Once I got out of the Navy, that's when it was just military spouse, and that's it. That was all I knew. That's all.
Right.
Sometimes I feel like that's all I still know. It's just
Yeah.
being a military spouse.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is
you
that's
have
true.
those. I feel like it comes along with a life, but also you have to separate yourself sometimes too. You have to have your own identity. You can't get lost in the military spouse, and you can't get lost in military mom world. You have to
Yeah.
separate that some kind of
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. Quita,
Well,
how'd you
well, for
overcome
me,
any
how I overcame it over time. What happened was when I first moved to Virginia, I was trying to find my own identity by, okay, I've uprooted myself out of college. I never finished college. Where do I start? Do I, when we got married, I ended up finding us a place to live. He was deployed. Everything was on me. Um, Finding an apartment by myself, not really having friends. Him introducing me to friends of a spouse or different things of that sort. But when I first came, it started off kind of rough because I had to get back in school. It was my main thing. My main goal was to stay educated, school, finish my education. So that was my main focus. But prior to me doing that, it took me a year to find myself again, to go back to school because I was so busy trying to
Mm.
find a job. I was busy. So in the beginning, I would say the first year I struggled trying to find a balance on my own, and he was deployed. I didn't know how to get around
Yeah.
Virginia. So you do become uprooted away from family. So that
Yeah.
that was me. It took me about a good year to find my identity, getting back in school,
Yeah.
and finding my own friends, or friends that I niche with through my husbands and their
Right.
spouses.
Right.
You have to find a connection. And I found some amazing people along the way, and 20 years later,
Yeah.
of course, I wasn't an ombudsman, but the blessing was my husband was on a ship, and his close friend wife was an ombudsman, and I was introduced to her, and that's my big sister now. So I found myself again.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because so, like I said, so many people, so many spouses lose that identity. And then the sad thing is, you said it took you a year to regroup and refine yourself. But the sad thing is, some people don't regroup, some people don't find themselves. And then 10, 15 years later, they're on this venture to try to find themselves outside of being, chief officers or whoever's spouse. And how do you say, like, I always said I'm Ellison because that's who I am. Yes, I am, Warrant's wife, but I'm Ellison at the end of the day. He's not in this room. I am,
Hmm.
and just maintaining that sense of individualism, if that makes sense. Right. And I know we had a question, and I don't remember what it was. I seen it go across the screen, but I don't. Do y'all remember what it was? I think it said something about what was the hardest thing? I don't know. Oh, what is the hardest thing for your military spouse to understand? Hmm. So, what is the hardest thing for your military spouse to understand? If I
Okay,
had to
meaning.
answer the question, if I had to answer the question, it would be the hardest thing for me to understand. No, I understand it. The hardest thing for me to accept is that dag on change in an instant. That
Hmm.
part. That part right there. If you're going on deployment, dag on it go.
And you know
If you
what,
staying
too?
home, stay. If you do it
What
6 months, don't do 6 months and 4 weeks. So what do y'all answer the question? What is the hard? Where's the spouse? What is the hardest thing for you guys to understand as the spouse?
For me, the hardest thing is the deployment of them leaving, not knowing when they're coming back. And my husband's favorite line was when we would get deployed, he would always say, "Do not cry when I walk away. It makes the situation much harder for me."
Yeah,
And he said, "Just
yeah,
remember, I cannot carry my family in my sea bag." I used to
right.
hate hearing that.
Yeah,
But for
yeah.
me,
We're
that
gonna
was
talk
the
about
hardest
that D
thing.
word. We're gonna get to that D word. Not yet. I'm not ready because I'm not ready to talk about that D word yet. What's the hardest
Well,
thing
for
for
me,
you ladies?
it was hard for me to understand why Rick just couldn't get some of the stuff. I mean, it for me it was when they
Yeah.
came home that was hard because
Hmm.
one time he's like, "Julie, why Rachel got Rachel looks fat?" And I said, "What? What do you mean she looks fat?" And then he's like, "Did you take her to McDonald's too many darn times?" And I'm like, if the kids are fed, they're healthy, they're wearing clothes, and generally happy, what's the big point if I took them to McDonald's a couple of times? I got it done, right? And he didn't
Hmm.
understand. I just couldn't understand why he couldn't get it.
Oh my God.
As long as they're still alive, okay?
Right, right.
As long as they're still alive, we're good.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So look, I appreciated the fact that we were talking about how to maintain your identity, right? And I know for me, I started to know, like I was saying, I knew his social security number more than I do mine. And when somebody would say, "What's your social?" I would have to stop and think like, what What's my
Mhm.
social? Oh, mine, yeah, because you do take on this identity, more so because you have to carry this ID card that's attached to them. Like everything you're doing is because of them. So to
Mhm.
maintain your own identity, whether it's to go to school, find your job, be volunteering at the kids' school, something that's outside of your spouse's network, right? Because
Mhm.
like Jaquita, I heard you say most of the network is our spouses, right? And I've met some great people through the military and I wouldn't change it, but I'm grateful for the ones outside of it, truth be told. So because it helps keep me a little balanced. So I hear many spouses say they know nothing, right? They know nothing about their husband's or wife career. They don't know anything about them going and coming. How important is it for us to know our spouse's schedule?
For me, it's highly important. We have 4 children. Everybody's in different things. We have the oldest who just started high school. He's doing JV football. We have a 3-year-old who's in karate. We have a 7-year-old who's in karate and baseball. We have a daughter who does competitive cheer. So that's extremely important. Like, brother, I need to know when you're getting off. I need to know when you're getting off. I know what time you go to work, but it's really really important because you also have to have that family time. What's your
Yeah,
schedule? So let me know, and so we can plan movie night. Have movie night every Friday. Never fails. Pizza Friday, movie night Friday. It never fails. You have to have that time with one another. That's
mhm.
probably one of the most important things about knowing their schedule.
Right, right. Julie, what do you think?
Of course, it's important for us to know what our husband's schedule is like. But in one of my jobs, y'all, I got to go on board a ship, right before I came home, and I got to spend some time with some sailors before they came back to Norfolk, and that gave me such a wider perspective on what it's like for them to be deployed, and it gave me a little bit more understanding of what it's like. So the younger me, when Rick was on the TR, yes, I would get mad if the schedule went wrong, or he didn't come home on time, or he just didn't understand. But now that I'm older, I feel like, okay, I can roll with it. The ship is out there safe, no big deal. If I don't hear from him, it's because he's got nothing to say, because every day is the same on that ship. So for me, yeah, it is
Groundhog's
important,
Day.
but
Yeah,
if I don't know, I can deal with that.
yeah. So, Lashonda, I like the fact that you brought up about family time because, knowing the duty when they have duty, knowing when they deploying, knowing when they're going underway, and yes, underway and deployment is two different things. It's so
Mm-hmm.
important because if we want to do family time, right, and include our military spouses in to family is best to have them included in the family time, because if not careful, we can start growing as a family over here and
Mm-hmm.
excluding them, because everything is like, well, I don't know, so I'm just going to take the kids and I'm going to keep it moving. So now we have this little knit of family of that consists of the spouse and the children, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's the service member, and nobody's feeling like they're fitting in. So
Right.
that's very important. I'm glad you brought up family time because that's very important to make sure everybody feels a part,
Mm-hmm. For
right?
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that I would just suggest that to everybody. Know the schedule. Don't exclude the service member. They can't help, like Julie said, they can't help it if they got to do a fast cruise, which is just sitting at the dock, and I hated that, which is just sitting there for 3 days, right? Or they have to be extended or anything else so that everybody can grow together as a family. Because as a military spouse, even my own, I've seen where we started to grow, differently and start doing things while he was taking care of being a provider, doing what he had to do in the military. Quita, you brought this up. They didn't put a family in your sea bag. They just didn't. So how do you, it's important to understand the importance of being a unit so that you can continually be a family and you don't grow separately, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That family time was a really, really, really good point. So for all of our viewers, thank you so much for viewing in the Real Talk with Ellison, the military edition. We're sitting here with Julie, Jaquita, and Lashandra, and we are just talking about it from a spouse perspective. And Quita, you alluded to this earlier,
Okay.
but I'm gonna go ahead and mention the D word.
Okay. Deployment.
Employment. That word right there. That word right there. So let me share this, right? Especially coming out of the pandemic. And yeah, I consider myself seasoned now since we did 9 deployments, but hey, that's just a lot because that's not
Yes.
including workups and everything else. But I thought the hardest I thought the hardest deployment was our very first deployment because we got married and 2 weeks later he left, and then oh my goodness, all of a sudden the ship decided to do a world tour and relocate. But as time went by, unfortunately Eric left November of 2019. We are empty nesters now. So guess who was doing this COVID by herself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, rough. That's very rough. The world was locked down. We
Yeah.
didn't have toilet paper. I think my sister spent $80 to mail me toilet paper. It was just really rough. And it was definitely rough from a spouse perspective. And I had to keep checking myself. And the reason why I had to keep checking myself is because I was alone. I was scared. Things was happening. Um, I was sick one time and I was like, I don't know what this is, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh Lord. And he's worried. He's got his mom, his mom's a nurse, and like all this stuff is just happening. But yet I was here alone. So there are a lot of spouses that don't have children because even though they kind of, I'm gonna say for me, even though my kids got on my nerves, I'm glad I had them because it kind of kept me a little bit more occupied, you know.
Right.
But this cruise that he was on now, this deployment, he left November, supposed to come back in March. He came home after Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I went through, and I did. I went through it by myself, but I had to be careful not to resent him for it because it wasn't his fault. And he was going, and Julie, you're right. They go through on that side too, and that's
Yeah.
that. We're gonna talk about that later on in
Hmm.
another couple of shows. But they go through too. So with the deployment, right? What is the hardest part of the deployment? Because most of the time, and depending on the branch you in and the circumstances, a deployment can be anywhere from 6 to 18 months,
Yes.
right? And I know it becomes manageable, but tell our viewers, how can you really cope with this separation like that?
Honestly, it kind of feels like, I mean, I don't want to think of it this way, but it kind of feels like a loss when they're gone for so long and they're deployed. It's like, how do I find ways to get past this daily? What can I do with myself? Who can I get around that's positive? Who's going through what I'm going through to make this situation easier for me? That's what it was like more for me. It just kind of felt like a loss. I mean, I knew he wasn't passed away or anything like that, but to be around someone every day, your companion, your best friend, and to turn
Mhm.
around and not know when they're going to call, when you're going to see them. You don't know if it's going to be 5 months, 6 months, 9 months. I mean, it's actually an emotional roller coaster, is what it is. It's kind of feeling
Yeah,
like a loss.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. So what are some positive ways that you was able to cope? Anybody? What are some positive ways you was able to cope?
Well, I was able to focus on my kids, so that kept me
Mm-hmm.
busy. But Rick always wanted he just wanted a care package almost every week. So I spent my time putting care packages together for him. And I would go to the store and I'm like, oh, Rick might want this or Rick might want that. So I always, kept thinking about him through these care packages. And actually for us, it was easier when he was deployed to Afghanistan than when he was on a ship because they had better internet connection where he was at the time. And so I got to
Yeah.
see so that
Yeah.
connection versus, you know, him being on the ship where we couldn't really talk to each other all the time, but just
That's right.
thinking, oh, okay, this he'll have these potato chips in a few days, or he'll get to wear this thing that I put, in there. Um, Also, sometimes you smell his clothes, his pill,
Mhm.
or his,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but those little things is, what I try to find some positivity in, and it kept me going. It's little things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Sean, you want to jump in?
Yeah. So I've only experienced one deployment. He's been on 11, but since we've been together, we've only experienced one deployment together. And at that time, we only had the three kids. I had a post deployment baby, but we only had three kids at the time, and that was extremely rough. The youngest was 2. Um, at that time, he's 7 now, but he was 2, and I had just gotten a job, so that it was a lot going on. So what I did, I picked up like extra shifts. I was able to take my children to work with me. So, and I worked with the intellectually disabled at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I threw everything into work. So I was working
Mm-hmm.
double shifts. The kids would go with me, and the way it worked out, it was good. And I threw myself into working out.
Yeah.
I
Working
worked
out.
out,
Yeah.
lost like 20 pounds. It was just like, oh, I'm gonna be it when he comes back.
Yeah.
But that,
Exactly.
yes, that was a big thing for me. Um,
Working out.
yeah, working out, taking care of the kids. I remember the day he left for deployment. It was a huge thunderstorm, and my two older children, who were I think maybe like 8 or 9, and then like 6 at the time, bawling their eyes out because they were afraid that Papa was going to get struck by lightning and his ship was going to,
Right.
like, it was really, really
Yeah.
bad. But
Yeah.
we focused on the positive. So just pushing myself as far as work was concerned, and um, working out, those were my coping skills because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really know anything else. And I didn't have any family in Virginia at all.
Right.
So it
Right.
was
Right.
just myself and the babies.
So the way it worked for me to cope was more or less, I didn't have any kids at the time. It was just myself, and so I buried myself in schoolwork. I had a year and a half left of college before I had my bachelor's degree. So it worked for me. That was my positive way to cope and to get through the process. And when you're looking to graduate from college, it's totally different from high school. So I buried myself in my work. Oh, it was a struggle, but it kept my mind moving. And to me, the positive side and the outcome was me having a degree at the end of the tunnel. So
Yeah.
that kept me busy. But being in the house by myself, I was like, the best way to cope is to finish my degree, because I
Mm.
Right.
left my degree. I left receiving my degree back home in Louisiana to come to Virginia to be with my husband. So while he was deployed 6 months, 9 months in and out, I was able to accomplish getting my degree. So that was a
Yeah.
blessing, and that was the positive side for me.
Yeah.
That's I was right there with you, Jay. I'm
Right.
right
Right.
there with you. I finished. Oh my gosh, that's like a story within itself. But I was
Yeah.
able to finish my undergrad with the kids, with him deployed, and working like double shifts. Drove from Virginia to Florida for my daughter's cheer competition, from Florida to Alabama for my graduation, and then back to Virginia.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah,
Praise
So look,
God
what
and kudos to you, because I wouldn't have been able to do
right.
all that.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing out of all of you guys is set a goal. Set some goals to get things accomplished on deployment. That'll help keep your mind, that'll help keep you from being idle, that'll help keep you out of mess, that'll help keep you from laying on the couch. So let me tell y'all about my first deployment. I'm gonna make it real short. So my thank God for, my mom, my mother-in-law. Because my first deployment, I told you we got married and he left 2 weeks later. I don't think I changed my sheets for three months. I think it was 3 months. I was laid up in the bed. My mother-in-law came and got my kids. It's just I didn't know what to do. You're with somebody every day, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden it's gone. And I wish I had the shirt. I wish I had a shirt, but I still have the very first shirt that he wore that I put on every single day. And if my husband's watching this and if he thinks to go in the drawer and get it, and I still got it. But I say all that to say, and that was back when there was no internet, ladies. Listen, gentlemen, listen. It was snail mail, okay? You had to night shirt. So it was snail mail. And then he would get a letter that was before, and I mean we had to end up labeling it. Listen. So my older self learned that set goals. So what you ladies was saying was set goals. Whether it's weight loss, whether it's school, whatever it is, set some goals to keep you occupied, right? Throughout the deployments and be intentional at doing so. Right. So with all of that being said, how important is it to get involved, right? Because we all said we didn't have a support system, we didn't have our family, but there's benefits in having a social support system. So what would you say the importance of getting involved with, a social support system would be, for deployment or anything else like that?
First, I would say church number one. Finding yourself spiritually, being able to meet other people who support you and go through with what you go through. And when you're in a town that's full of military people, it's so many people out there, even in the church world, that they're going through the same things you're going through as well. So that's where I kind of found mine as well. That was my side of being able to get out, socialize on a spiritual realm.
Mhm.
That's one. Another one was connecting with other military spouses that you meet. If you all were on the same ship, you get together. You may have a girls' night. Just
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
finding something positive to get you through and getting out and socializing, but being around positive people, positive energy, because
Yeah.
you can be around negative people as well. But church, it for me was a blessing.
Mhm.
Yeah, a good church with a heart for military families. And I think that comment was good because, sometimes, and like I keep saying, we are a unique community and everybody doesn't understand. And people, they be like, "Oh, it's going to be okay. Don't worry." Or, "Oh, that time sure did went by fast." It's like, please don't say
Mm-mm.
that. Don't tell
Mm-mm.
me that 9 months went by fast. Right? It might have went by fast for you, but I'm sitting over here doing, drowning myself or trying to reach goals or whatever the case may be. So it's not okay to just tell me, "Oh, it's okay," and it goes by fast. We just have to make sure that we're more intentional at being a positive support system and saying the right thing. It's all about saying the right thing, right? Because even though we might have gone through the same thing or we might all be in the military, there's some people out there who never done a deployment. So they don't
Mhm.
know what it's like for their spouse to go on deployment. I met somebody the other day, they in 27 years and never did a deployment. I'm like, what? What been? You know, I'm like, wow. So yeah, having a positive, having a community that understands you, right? And if they don't understand, then they're willing to understand you. That's very important, right?
Mhm.
Julie, what you got? Because I
Mhm.
know, I know, Julie, you be involved in a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, I threw myself into being an ombudsman, and you know that those 2 o'clock. I was very honored that people call me at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. I was one of their first phone calls after they had their baby at Portsmouth. But yes, I threw myself into it, went whole head first, kept myself busy, and just keep on keeping on like the Energizer Bunny. And for me, the deployment did go fast because everybody kept me busy. had things going on, lots of things going, kids, and in my case, I was very fortunate. My mother, for the TR deployment, had come from Hawaii to Virginia to help me with my kids. So I
Mhm.
was fortunate in that respect that my mother was there to help me with the kids. So I was able to dive into things more and keep myself busy. And so,
Mhm.
that's one thing. My mom was married to my dad for, no, let's not just say, we won't say because then I'll give away my age. But she was a military wife. My dad's retired military, so they understood the life, and so they had
Right.
sent me some help. So definitely for me, I was able to tap into that, my own family,
Family.
and then yep, because although y'all, I may not have mentioned this, but my husband is actually from Norfolk, Virginia, born and raised in Norfolk, Virginia,
Okay.
and I had my mother-in-law there, brother-in-law, sister-in-law there, but they were never really part of the military, and so they really didn't understand, and so
Right.
it's one of those. She wouldn't really be there for me, but I had to make sure
Oh,
she was there
wow.
on homecoming day, that kind of thing. I mean, she
So,
just didn't understand what I might have needed.
right.
So
Right. So let's jump in on that piece because I think that's important too. So we're watching your for the viewers right now. We're Real Talk with Ellison Military Edition. We have Julie with us. We have Lashandra. We have Jaquita with us, and we're just spouses, giving our own perspective of it. But so it's one thing not to be with family, but it's another thing to have family around but not support a family. Right? LaShonda, what you got? What you got, Sean? Come
Oh
here,
my
Green
god.
Bean. Flip,
Mm, just mm. Um
Keep it
my
G. Keep it G.
when my husband was a recruiter in Georgia, he's from Savannah, Georgia. He was a recruiter in Dalton, Georgia, and which was all of maybe a couple of hours away from Savannah. Family never came to see him. I had our
Wow.
um I had our first son together, Joshua. Family never came to see him. We had to go there to see so they could see our son. Um we were in Virginia. We went from Georgia to Virginia. Nobody ever came to see us. Nobody. Did an online baby shower. Nobody nobody even showed up for the online baby
Wow.
shower from his
Right.
family.
Right.
Um it the struggle has been real. Chief pinning ceremony, most important time in his naval career. Nobody from his family showed up. Everybody, pretty much everybody from my family came from Alabama to Virginia just for his chief pinning ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of his family, like, oh, sorry, I can't make it. Oh,
Yeah.
but congratulations.
Yeah.
So
So
it's been
I'm
a
sure
struggle.
he was hurt, but as a spouse,
As a spouse, I was
witnessing all
angry.
this. Yeah.
I was very angry, and I was hurt for him. He had never gotten a care package before we got together. As a matter of fact, I take that back. He received one care package from his grandmother before she passed away. Other than that, his family has never been there for him at all. So that I couldn't understand that as a spouse because I was in too, and my family was there. So I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't understand that somebody's family cannot be supportive.
Right.
That was new
Right.
for me. I was like, wait, what? You say what? Like my
Right.
family, when I went on deployment, my entire family helped me put my stuff on the ship. So for his family not to be there for anything in his career, it went over my head.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask this question when I talk to the service members themselves because I'm having a show with them on as well. Sean, I think you're joining me. Are you joining me on that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but as a spouse, right? How important is it for us to make sure we get those care packages out?
That's very important. That is so important because it lets our spouses know, like, hey, I mean, I understand what activities are happening on the ship, but I love you. And I want you to know that I am thinking about you wholeheartedly. You need some new boots, boy, I got you.
Right.
You need some new uniforms, let me send them off. But and even with our kids, like it's the small stuff that they love and what really counts. Like putting a little stuffed animal in there. It could
Right.
be raggedy as all get out, but that baby put that stuffed animal in there for their dad or for their mom.
Right.
So it just makes it all the more special.
Yeah. Yeah. Quita, them care packages.
Don't get me started, please. It was very important. Um, Missing Christmas, birthdays,
Mm-hmm.
Valentine's Day, holidays. I mean, we felt as if it was overwhelming to us, but I always thought about it. Imagine how they may have felt. I felt as if I was sending a care package out every week,
Mhm.
nonstop, and then he'll call. He'll say, "Hey, did you send it? Did you send it?" And I said, "You may get five at one time." I feel like I'm at the post office daily. But it was very important for them to receive those packages. I mean, it was so funny to me because it was like we're not supposed to put perishable items, different things in the care package. We sneaking cake in the care packages. I know I shouldn't be saying that, but look, and by the time it made it to him, he said, "Oh, it had a little mole on it, but I just cut it off and ate it and kept on."
They eat anything.
They do not care. As long as they can have a taste of home or food that we cook. I mean, that was the best I could do as far as things that you had to eat. So I said, "Well, how was the cake?" "Well, it was stale, but it was amazing. But it took weeks to get there." But and I was saying, "I'm not sticking cake inside of this care package." And he's like, "Please send the cake, please send the cake." And then when it gets
Right.
there, it's a little molded, but my husband didn't care. He was excited. It was like
Yeah.
Christmas for him. So
Yeah.
care packages are very important,
Right.
and it makes you feel good knowing that you
Yeah.
made them feel good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Do something special. The Care Bear, the little teddy bear. I don't know about the cake, but the last one I sent my husband away with this little treasure box,
Mm.
and it's a note right here, but it's got a whole bunch of little sayings. Right? It's got a whole bunch of little sayings in it that he could read every single day while he was gone. Little notes either that I took off the internet or I quoted for myself so that he can have something every single day, and I put it in the treasure box and I hid it, and he was able to find it. So it's important to send the care package because most of the time they're looking for the stuff that they ask you for, but also something special, right?
Mm-hmm.
Julie, what you got about a care package? Don't you tell me about no cake and cookies.
No, well, it got to the point where Rick would call me and say, "Where's my care package?" And
Yeah,
he would write down like which post office and what day I went to drop off the care package, and then he would say towards the after a couple of weeks, he would say, "Oh, Julie, you need to go to this one other post office because that post office sends me the packages to Afghanistan quicker." So I would have to drive out of my way to go to this one post office, which was, I think, a regional post office or something. So his packages would get there faster. But like when he was on board the ship, I always try to I didn't send candy or chocolate because it melts, right? But I would send lollipops or whatnot that he can share. And I always told him to share with others because you
yeah,
never know,
yeah,
some feeling down that day, and one little lollipop can make a difference for somebody. So I always told
right,
them to share,
right,
whether
Mm-hmm.
shared or not.
right. That is the truth. I don't know all the time either, but sometimes I did speak to some of the people, and Eric didn't always share. So, so yes, yes, care packages are important. themed care packages, all
Yeah.
kind of stuff. You remember in the Dollar Tree, that big, huge stocking that you can get? I filled it up with candy one time and sent it out. I mean, it's just so many things that, that you can do. And it's important for us, right, to make sure that we get those out, we get involved with our FRG. I think our FRG was great. We made the reef for the ship. I mean, we did a lot of those things,
Mhm.
right? So we're coming to a close. We really hope that you guys was able to get some nuggets. You're viewing Real Talk with Ellison Military Edition, and we have Jaquita, Lashandra, and Julie. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here. So let me ask you this. Julie, you said one time in this show, you said my old self now with versus my younger self, right?
Yep.
So in closing, what's a nugget that that you would leave, right? For those military spouses who are, maybe they're just starting out, or maybe they still having difficulty, adapting to the military lifestyle. What's a nugget that you would want to leave them?
Celebrate the little things. Take
Mhm.
joy
Explain
in
that.
little things. It's great to have goals, big goals that and we talked about finishing college, or getting your weight loss and all that. But it takes a lot of effort and tremendous really tremendous energy just to make it through the day, get the kids off to school, and get their homework done, get them fed, bathe them. All that stuff might seem little, but it's actually a big thing over the course. So just celebrate little things. Have a little
Yes.
faith, and when you have a little faith, things will come around. Things will be okay. That's
Right.
my
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Celebrate the little things. I like that. Quita, what you got?
The number one thing I would say, whether you're a spouse that has kids with your husband, or you're in the world by yourself, like myself, when I first started out before we had kids together, self-care. Make sure you take care of yourself, because if you can't give yourself um take care of yourself, give yourself self courage, spiritualness, without that, then it's hard to even come through a situation. So I would say self care. You have to take care of yourself in order for
Mm-hmm.
you to be strong for your spouse mentally,
Mhm.
spiritually, physically. You have to have self care.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Self-care
thank
is very
you.
important.
Very important.
Yes.
And let me say this about self-care. Self-care is not all about nails and toes, right?
Mhm.
Hey,
Mhm.
it's not about hair. I mean, it's not about your nails and your toes. You look, you better get that mental together, because that's what's going to help you survive. The nails and toes is not going to help you survive at deployment. So you
Yes,
need to get
ma'am.
your emotions and your mental stability together, right? And then go out there and worry about them nails and them toes, because no man want to come back to beautiful nails and fabulous toes, and you were crazy, right? So so self-care, yeah, get that massage, get a good book, do different things to just keep your mind right as well, mental,
Mhm.
physical, spiritual, emotional, all of that is part of self-care, right? All right, I'm sorry, Lashandra. Go ahead. What you got?
I don't know. Look, I just learned, the process of self-care. Not even
Right,
gonna
right.
kid you. Not even gonna kid you. There was no time for that with 4 kids. I'm finding time for that now.
Yeah, that's a nugget all
Um,
by itself.
yes. Yes. But I would say do things that are life-giving.
Mm-hmm.
So be supportive of one another, be generous beyond measure, be sensitive to each other's feelings, and essentially be selfless.
Yeah, be selfless. That's good. That's good, because sometimes we can tend to say, well, what about me? I'm left here.
Mm-hmm.
Or what about me? I got to deal with the kids, or what?
Yes.
And it's that's not the option always. So that's good. Be selfless. That's really good. So I think I already left my nugget about making sure your self care whole, right? Whole. Just make sure your self-care whole. But in closing, I wanted to say to our spouses to make sure that you're familiar with the Julian, help me out if I leave anything out, but the Military One Source and TRICARE. Now
Yes.
they're the same no matter what branch of the service you in. Right, Military One Source, TRICARE. It's important to know your number for your ombudsman, and I don't even want to talk about ombudsman. And we're not all don't not answer our phone. That's the number one complaint I see now. The ombudsman never answers. Okay, well, so know the number to your ombudsman, the Red Cross, right? Get connected with your Fleet and Family
Mhm.
Support Center because they are extremely helpful. They have a lot of
Yep.
things online.
Mhm.
Um, Make sure your service member has you enrolled in DEERS, right? And more importantly, let me say this, more importantly than enrolled in DEERS, make sure their page 4 is updated. So, because, and I say that because God forbid if something happens and it's not updated and they still got the mom or the ex on there, guess who the beneficiary is,
Mm-hmm.
right? So make sure not only are you enrolled in DEERS, but you have your page 4 updated, and then also a general power of attorney would be helpful while they're on deployment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Julie, did I miss out anything? What else?
Um, I would definitely say, in addition to that, go to the pre-deployment briefs. Get to know the people on board the ship. Get all the information. Get the information to child care. Know the school liaison. And even just get to know your neighbors. Get
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
just find a friend, and that can go a long way. But you covered all the resources really well, Ellison.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know what? I think that's a good nugget too, to know your neighbors, because so many people, they stay to themselves. And if something goes down and you can't get to your child, then just really quickly. I remember when a tornado hit here, and of course he was gone, and I was at work somewhere else,
That
and my
was a
kids
PR.
was here. You remember? And the last thing I got a call and went like this. All you heard was, oh, that was my phone call. Just like that. And all you heard was this, "Ooh," like the tornado, because it was coming past the school. It tore up. And I thank God. I thank God for the ombudsman, because she snagged my kids up. She went to 3 different areas to get my kids. I thank God for the captain's wife and the CMC, because they walked the highway with me to come get my kids. It was the next day, but that's all I could do. That's all I could do. So, it's important to build those relationships, because that was a detrimental time. you know Everything was down, power, everything. What could I do? And can you imagine if I didn't know my neighbors or anything like that? And my kids are in 3 different locations, and I am 35. No, I was 40 minutes away from them, and I couldn't get here because the highway was a mess. Right? And I couldn't get here, but my captain's wife and my CMC walked the highway with me to be able to reach my kids the next day. One of the ombudsmen climbed over trees and everything else to get to my kids. So it's important, very important, to make sure you have a social support system and know your neighbors. All right. So in closing, I just want to say again, thank you guys for tuning in to Real Talk with Ellison, the military edition. Julie, Quita, Lashandra, I appreciate you ladies. On the 9th of September, we are going to talk about raising children in the military. That's a whole different world by itself. And Sean, you back with me, right?
Yes.
All right, so you hanging in. I think she hanging in there with me throughout. I don't know. We'll see. But so that if tune in, if you know anybody in the military that that's raising children, tell them to tune in on September 9th. We'll be talking about raising children in the military. Julie, we've been through that, the ups and the downs of all the ages and everything else with the kids and stuff like that,
Yes.
right? And even if you don't have kids, tune in so that you know what to do when you do have kids, right, Quita? Well, ladies, I appreciate each and every one of you. Quita, that's my little sis that I never had. Julie is my sidekick from another mother. And Sean, I know we got a future together too. Right. So thank you, God. Thank you, ladies, again. I appreciate each and every one of you, just even for your support to your spouses. Right. I appreciate y'all supporting them because, truth be told, we need each other. Right.
Yes.
We need each other. So thank you
Yes.
for tuning in to Real Talk with Ellison, the military edition. Until September 9th, y'all have a wonderful night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Thank you.